Hey Digant. So today we are going to talk about Incorta architecture. Before we move on to the Incorta architecture design, we'll talk about why Incorta and what is actually Incorta is doing, right? Um, so in typical Incorta is a business intelligence reporting tool. In typical data warehouse world, we have three different layers, right? We go for ETL part. That is something we will go for various ETL tool which is available in the market like Informatica or Oracle and other SSIS. Bunch of ETL tool is available for doing all the extraction part from source of system. And then the 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 portion after we do the extraction typically will go for load, right? So there we need a database like Oracle, Exadata, Snowflake, and other bunch of database whatever we have in the market today will go for an uh, data storing process. And the third layer is the data viewing layer, right? We call it as a data virtualization part, where or data visualization part, right? Like where we can see the data and rendering the data, and for the business purpose. There we have a lot of tools like Spotfire, MicroStrategy, Tableau. So so these are the three different um, you know level or layers uh, where we have a when we go for a design a data model for a given uh, source system or given project, right? So the overall Incorta here is it it doesn't require these three portion, and it combines all these three portion in a single layer. So Incorta is a layer where you can use as a ETL, and you can store the data as like database and view the data as a visualization. So that is the typical version of the what is Incorta all about. I'm not going to talk about more about what is Incorta is doing. So in this video, we're going to talk about the Incorta architecture, right? So if you want to build a if you want to install if you want to install the Incorta application, right? What are the key things you required, um, and what are the key components we have to uh, we need to take care before we install or before we go for any projects. So the first component we need is we need to decide what the server we want to use. Either you want to for if you do you want to install your Incorta application in your Windows or Linux. So that is the choose the um, operating system or server, right? So that is the first layer. We need to decide what level of what server or what kind of operating system we need for storing or installing software. The second portion is so in order to interact with the Incorta metadata, Incorta itself, they're coming with a inbuilt database Derby, but in any enterprise or production related application, they don't recommend for Derby application because that is not stable for production perspective, right? So you need to decide what metadata database you want to use. Either you can use Oracle or MySQL, right? The third layer is the good about Incorta is it has a variety of flavor you can add in your extraction path. And like if you have a more complex query you want to run it, right? In typical uh, SQL layer, you may not do, you have a performance issue, you may have a performance issues, right? So that's why most of the company they're using Spark for doing all the hard works on behind the scene to perform some complex SQLs or complex task over there. Pretty much Incorta is also having the same Spark architecture. So in case if you decided to use Spark for any of your complex SQLs or performance related stuff, so you need to make sure you need a Spark machine. Spark machines with you can go for you can start with a single machine or Spark cluster, um, and then this Spark machine you have to definitely you can use the out of the box of Incorta software, or you can download with the latest version of Spark and you can integrate with Incorta. So both are both are working as same as. So so these three layers, these three you know prerequisite for before you going for any enterprise level decision to think about where we can use how we can deploy the and what are the key things is required for Incorta. So in this video, I'm going to take one example and see how the Incorta architecture it is really handling that portion, how we can deploy that portion in a real world. Let's say I have a Oracle ERP, my source. So, however, in Incorta itself, they have the out-of-the-box modules available when you deploy their software. Like Oracle ERP has their own individual module, like GL, Fixed Asset, or APA, or but in Incorta, I mean, it has the same kind of package shipment they are having in Incorta when we install it the first time. Um, Either you can use their out-of-the-box module or we can have our own Oracle custom SQL. Let's say in this example, I want to bring some invoice or order data from Oracle enterprise application, and I want to see how the data looks like for the last 6 months or last 1 year of data. So we identified what is our source. So in this case, my source database is Oracle ERP, right? And then now Incorta has option. You can choose the database various heterogeneous sources. Either you can use Oracle ERP or Salesforce, bunch of variety of lot of flavors available over there. So the cool part of Incorta is in the extraction layer. So I'm going to draw this is the Incorta. So you can have Incorta is when I mentioned in the starting of the video, right? So all these three layers sitting in an Incorta portion itself. So ETL, and then database, and then report. So all these three individual concept is available in Incorta itself. So so in the ETL portion, we can connect Incorta to the any source database and as a flat table, or you can have a customized SQL. What it will do is it will bring all the data in a Parquet format. and it stores the Parquet file in your server. Either if you are using a Linux machine or if you are using a Windows machine, all this data has been resided in a Parquet format. So because obviously in all our enterprise system, if you not compress the data, definitely will be a huge data file size, right? So that's one of the reasons they're using Parquet format to compress the data from the source system, and then storing the data. So how they are storing? Are they using any database, or they using any separate kind of files or that? No, they are using their in-memory concept. So they are using the in-memory database. So once the extraction is completed, they are picking the Parquet file and store the data in memory. So once the data has been loaded in memory, now Incorta have all the flexibility now to to build our logical data model. So they have a three different layer in Incorta application. Maybe next video I'll show you how the application looks like and where we can with some practical example with the demo also. But in this video, let's stick with the theoretical portion, how it is actually is working. So yeah, so once the data has been loaded, now we have a layer called three different layers: physical layer, business layer, and reporting layer in Incorta system itself. And the physical layer is nothing but where we are extract the data and convert the data in Parquet file and storing in memory. And once we have the data in memory, then we have then we can build a logical data model. Once we have a logical data model, we have obviously visualize the data in the reporting portion. So yeah, so this is the high level design, but also there is a lot of layer and flavor is available in Incorta software. It's based on our requirement, how we can leverage that. For example, in this case, if I require to run a customized SQL with a more complex joins, like let's say if the broadcast joins required to do some kind of calculation required, right? If you do in a regular SQL, definitely it is not it will take hours and days also. So here they have a concept of materialized view. So materialized view is something like running the SQL in the backend using a Spark software, and then once all the hard work is done at that Spark level, it will be load the data in memory. So we have to make sure what kind of requirement is that, and based on the requirement, we need to bring the right flavor on your architecture to build your data model and report accordingly. But this is the typical layer of Incorta where how we can build the database or bring the data and how it is storing in memory and how we can visualize it. This is, as I mentioned, this is a theoretical portion of this Incorta architecture design. So maybe next video I'll talk about, I'll give the demo of the Incorta application itself. I hope at a high level I explained more about the Incorta system itself. Maybe, yeah, we'll see you next video. Thank you.